There's mountains in Canada, I'm sure. It's cold. Like, you would freeze to death in Canada. Like, if you go to Mount Everest, yes, you will freeze to death. But is she going to Mount Everest? No, she's just sort of like flying over it, and she's like, wow, so pretty. That's it. That's what she's doing, right? Why am I bringing that into context? Yeah. You want me to turn it on?
It's a part of the
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Right. Very different culture. Why do I say very different culture? Everyone needs to be on my slide, on my week 8 handout 1. Why is it a very different culture? Because the Bhutanese are Asian and she's not Asian. It's like me going to Africa and being like, why is everyone looking at me? What's wrong? Right? Same thing. Yeah. Okay. Text type. What did you call it? Travel writing. I don't even know why that's a word. Travel writing. Structure. Who would like to dare structure? Cherry.
She first describe.
Give me a sort of very brief overview. You don't have to go paragraph by paragraph. Just tell me what happens first. What's sort of in the middle.
Landscape.
Yeah. So we go from landscape. Yeah.
And then she writes about her journey. Her journey.
Yeah, I liked her traveling to this faraway place, sure. And then
what she encountered.
What she encounters.
And
yeah.
Also the people. She described the structure and the building structure, the architecture, and the people in town.
Exactly. Okay. Did everybody hear that? No, because we were fidgeting. That's why nobody heard it. What amazing thing did Cherry say? Who would like to repeat it? Nobody would like to repeat it because we all missed it. Okay, what Cherry said was, there's a very clear structure. Yeah, the structure is she separates each of her experiences into those paragraphs, right? So it begins with the journey to Bhutan, and then what happens next, Cherry?
Bhutan, and the description of the
landscape.
Yes, landscape, architectures, people, and also
actually let's put that together.
Festival.
Yes. Cultural traditions, we can call it, right? Yeah. And then how does it end? Okay, now that is what your question will be, right? If you know the structure of any of your texts, you already know what the question will be. I can already tell you how many questions will come out of this question, this text. Yeah, there will be questions about describe her, how she talks about the landscape, architecture, people, blah, 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 because that's the main part, right? The other thing will be describe her culture shock. Why? Because she's in a new culture. She's never traveled, unlike the other two girls, right? Which is why her journey to the place is so like, oh my God, I took 4 flights. Okay. Like most Hong Kong children are like, basically they're born and they're like, let's go on a plane, right? So not a very impressive thing for some other people, right? And then she finally ends with her thoughts and feelings. Why? Because it's a personal piece of writing. This is not she's not writing a magazine article. She's not writing to some editor. She's just writing it for herself, right? So she summarizes all of her experiences and she's like, wow, that was amazing. I really learned something. And that's it. That's what all writing is, yeah? Okay, task 2. As you will see, Cherry was exactly right because I've already done the bulk of the questions, right? So task 2 is we're focused on the descriptions, landscape, the town, the people, and the history / again, town. Yeah, that's basically exactly what Cherry described in terms of the structure, which is why I know that this exam question will be heavy on getting you to analyze description. I don't care really about how she feels. I'm worried, I'm more interested in her description. Yeah, that's where we will begin today. Let's begin with, let's say, Ariel, you are in charge of description of landscape. I've already given you some quotes, but you will have to add at least 2 more. That's why I've given you space. Description of town, Susanna. Description of people, Jenny. Description of the history, Ursula. And task 3, structure, we'll give to Cherry, since you are just like on this structure role. But task 3, not all of it, Cherry. Start with line 7 and 18. If you finish, then you can move on. But okay, let's say 10-ish minutes. And I've given some examples of how you should be writing about it. So try and follow my pattern. How long? Let's say 5-ish minutes. Yeah, let's do 5. See what happens after 5.
I want to ask the structures until which one?
7 to 18.
Okay.
You know what, Cherry? You can do it in paragraphs.
Yeah.
That might be easier. Because I just realized I didn't write down the line numbers. I'll make you a new table underneath it.
Okay.
Just give me 1 second. So Cherry, start with paragraph 2.
Okay. Ủa, khi nào thì chỉnh rồi sao mong không luôn vô chồng đợi rồi thôi太无聊，直接周末。在那个 test 里学上面呢，而且他现在还有什么？那個還沒有講到，你哋冇揾到啊？我冇揾。今日佢都會幫我啲手揾。係咪老師嗰啲？一樣啊，你呢個差係啊。哦。
What's it gonna do? Oh yeah, I'm hungry. Okay. December 13th, 1 o'clock or 1:30?
那点火呢？是 lunch 吗？ 1:30.
Yeah, so you guys can get some food.
They said December 13th, which is a Wednesday, at 1:30.
December 13th, 1.5 hours or 2 hours?
1.5.
An hour and a half.
1.5.
Okay. Yes. Now, please make sure you guys tell this time to your parents. That's important because then your parents are like, okay, we know what's happening. Okay, so where are we? Oh wait, you have 2 minutes. You have 2 minutes. It's fine. Oh, the history one is so boring.
Okay, what impact has they created?
Who knows? You just gotta think of something. That's half of literature. You just go, I feel like this today. Oh, yes. Okay. Let's see. Should I get a coffee? No, I should not get a coffee. You guys have school tomorrow.
Yes.
Ugh.
มี佢哋點講啊？不同我講中意點講？action 好似有啲恐怖嘅。
Okay, we ready? Did you guys come here straight from school? Or you came from home? Nice. So how about now? Still a no. Okay, you can have 4 more minutes. Are you hot or cold?
ประมาณโอเคแล้วก็ถือว่าเห็นเลย
Are you hot, Jenny?
I'm not hot. I feel like
Claustrophobic? Okay, are we ready? Oh my God, do you know that McDonald's has a chocolate pie? Oh my God.
okay, I think it's
Yeah, wait, hold on. I'm trying to find a picture.
the new
I don't know.
chocolate pie.
Oh, it doesn't show me a picture. That's insane. I can't believe they're allowed to make that. Oh my God, so
Is it
slow.
purely chocolate inside?
Oh, no, it's sugar. It's just, it's sugar and a heart attack on the inside. But that's the whole point, right? Okay, all right, let's do this. We are starting with descriptions. Okay, who was landscape? Ariel. What's line 15?
On the other side of mountains are mountains, more mountains and more mountains.
Oh, okay. With that, just in your thingy, call that repetition of vocab. Yeah? Or repetitive vocab probably is better. Yeah, repetitive vocab. So it just says using the same word over and over again. First paragraph. Actually, yeah, that's fine. You can also say intro, but it's cool. Who was description of town?
Me, but I haven't finished.
That's fine. Talk to me through the first two. 5 different flights over 4 days. What do you mean?
The place of the town is not easy to get there.
I can read what you're saying, but like the first part is okay. This one I'm going to delete because there are plenty of non-direct flights. That's not the important part. You see what I'm talking about? So what is the impact that creates that the place is not easy to get to?
This is not convenient.
So this is how I know you're born in Hong Kong, because you use the word convenient so brazenly, right? Like in India, if I ever say that's not convenient, people will laugh at me. People will laugh because they're like, you think there's anything convenient here, right? So this is how I know you're a Hong Kong child, because you expect convenience, right? So that's a good thing to have, but anyway, right? So the problem is not of convenience. The problem is more that you are not able to explain just how far it is. Like think of where she's going from, like on a map, you know? So it's not that she's going to like Seattle or Washington. She's literally going like to a different continent, right? So that one is more about the sheer distance, the difficulty of getting there. And also the city that she's in is not a big city, right? How many people are in Thimphu? Like what, 200? That's more than that's less than Montreal, which I think is where she's from. But anyway, yeah. How do I put that now? Which is probably your question too. Impact. Huge distance traveled. One corner of the world to the other. Yeah, let's be poetic. Okay, one-story shops with wooden shuttered windows open onto the street. The place is using natural materials, no pavements. I don't care about the pavements. Talk to me about the shops, yeah? Shows the trade. What is trade?
The trade.
Yes. Right. You can just say markets, right? talks about the markets on the street, which is normal, but not normal to her. She's Canadian. Yes, and they can't operate markets in the street, can they? Or they will freeze to death. So yes, definitely, right? It shows the, yeah, let's go with markets. On the streets, that's fine. You don't need the natural materials. I think what you are trying to say is the place is quaint. You may look up that word now. Tempo is actually new. Yes, the word actually, continue with that, Susanna. What can you say instead of the word? Yes. Yep. Why is that important?
Because refuser surprise.
Yes. Shows her surprise. Yeah. It's almost like a fact we may not have known, right? So it is an interesting fact that it's so new. Yeah. Right. Who was people?
Me.
Okay, go on.
The first one, like the blue suited policeman. It's kind of like it because in Canada it's comparatively a more crowded city than Bhutan. So it can't, like the policeman cannot just use hand gesture to direct the traffic, but there it can.
Yeah, but why is he doing that? Why does she find it graceful?
Is it because the policeman does it with like really good manner or something like?
Not really good manner. The policeman has done it all his damn life. Of course he's good at it. Of course it's graceful because he's like, oh my God, stop. Okay, let's just do this, right? You have to remember she's a foreigner in Asia. That's the end of it. It doesn't matter if she's in like Malaysia or Hong Kong. It doesn't matter where she went. She'd be like, oh my God. You've all seen foreigners. You've all seen tourists like in Hong Kong. They just look around like, what? Right? Imagine that, but in a much smaller place where they're just like, I have no idea what's going on right now. Right? There are no traffic rules. There are no traffic lights. So somebody has to do the, let's not crash into each other, guys. It's cool. But it's not in the backwater, right? Like they have cars. They might not have traffic lights, but they have cars. So what does that tell you? That there's no traffic lights, but there's cars. It's like having, it's like if your school tomorrow just disappeared and you showed up wearing school uniform. So there are students, but no school. What's the purpose of that?
Strange.
Contrast. It's the contrast, right? Yes. So they all look beautiful, right? They're blue suited, graceful hand gestures. So they're doing the best they can with the lack of the traffic light. Like they have a person in charge of moving the traffic because there's no traffic lights. How ridiculous is that? And that's something you will only find in Asia. So, you know. Right? So it's the contrast. She's trying to create a contrast, yeah? The graceful, yeah, because he's practiced it. Yeah? He has to be quite graceful with it. Otherwise, he's just going to be like, that's not graceful, yeah? Okay, they have beautiful aristocratic faces. Why is that irony?
Because I just searched aristocratic and mean upper class,
Mm,
and I don't think people living there are upper class.
probably not, no.
So, I don't know.
But the aristocrat, the adjective of that word means someone who is who's got almost a very handsome face. When we say aristocratic, yes, it looks like you belong to royalty, but you don't have to actually be royalty. Like for example, you know Cinderella, right? Poor as hell. She had an aristocratic face because she was beautiful. So you can say it's sort of ironic, but you don't really need that there. I think the focus here should be, yes, visual imagery for sure. How she found the people basically good looking, I don't know. All of the other things you've used, yeah? So positive, vocab. What else did you say? What was that other thing you were just saying? Also, you can't really say descriptive adjectives because that's the purpose of the adjective, you know? Positive, yeah, let's go with positive adjectives instead. Yeah? That's the feature. And the impact is basically her being like, whoa, everyone's so period. It's fine. Okay. Writer is a loss of words. What feature is that? Search for the right word to describe the people, the quality that impresses me most. What is the name? How can you label that sentence? What does that mean? So you're at a loss of words. Begin with the loss of words. Close to hyperbole. Look at the word. Search for the right word to describe the people. The quality that impresses me most. What do all of those? I agree that she seems to be at a loss of words or speechless, whatever, right? What is the? How can I give it a name? It's not a. It will never like most of these are not features that we can recognize instantly, like a simile or a metaphor. Yeah, but for some of these ones, we have to actually describe it ourselves, right? Now, what I'm understanding from the impact is correct. Yeah, it's a sense of admiration and the affection, right? She's just like, oh my God, too many things, right? Begin with the idea that she's at a loss of words. She's at a loss of words, but she's still talking. So what is she doing? Why even say that sentence? Like you're not even, she's not giving me any information, right? All she's doing is, oh my God, I can't find the word. It's so amazing. Like, oh, thanks. If I stabbed you, right, and there's blood everywhere, I'd be like, I don't know the word for what I just did, but it's just crazy. Like, not the same, right? Not the same. So what kind of device would you say this is? Starts with an R. Rhetorical, yes. But it's a statement, not a question. You can have rhetorical devices, which are sentences. Yeah? Okay, good. Listing, yes. Superlative, yes. Best built race of men I ever saw. So, yeah, okay. I get what you're saying. Sup, Cherry? You okay? Okay. Who is history? Oh my God. Okay, let's go through history quickly, please. So bored.
The area, the first one is to evoke a mysterious fight.
A mysterious what now?
Mysterious fight.
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 Spell it.
V-I-B.
Oh, vibe.
Vibe.
It should tickle. When you say V, it should tickle your bottom lip. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Vibes.
shows that the country is quite ancient.
Yes. Well, describe the feature to me. Okay, we'll come back to that one. Earlier names of Bhutan are just as beautiful. What's that?
To highlight the beauty of the country.
Yeah. Lotus Grove of the Gods.
Visual imagery.
No. What is that lotus? Where did I find that? Can someone tell me a line number if you've got it?
Line 18.
Yeah. Continue. What is it about the lotus? Why did I pick specifically that one? I agree that the name has imagery in it, but what is the point of giving that one example? Excuse me.
Show that the writer is trying to familiarize with the culture.
The writer is trying to familiarize herself with the culture. Yes, that's number one. What's number two? It's to do, so the first one, earlier names of Bhutan are just as beautiful. That's to do with what she's learning. So when she says the earlier names of Bhutan are just as beautiful, that's the first clue that she will then give me examples. So technically the first one is what she has learned, right? There has to be a link between each of the quotes that you pick. So the earlier names, if she doesn't give us an example, then we're just like, well, what is it? Why is it beautiful? What's the, if she said they're just as beautiful, okay, then what is it? The first thing I'll ask is, give me an example, right? So the first one is, it's the example of what she's learned, and the second one is what you just said, which is? You just said it.
Familiar.
Yes. Us with the same. Yeah. Preservation for this one is so stupid. I hate this. I hate that they want this quote. Whatever. Preservation of its independence was remarkable.
Show that the country is powerful.
The fighting. I call it the fighting spirit of the country. Oh my God, you resisted the British. Oh. Like, yeah, as if the British would climb mountains. They're not going to climb mountains. They'll just get halfway up and oh my God, I can't do this. I can't do this. So yeah, no wonder that they didn't take over. Okay, give me another quote in the same area, history. Right, you can do didn't exist 30 odd years ago. I really like that one. What line is that? If someone can find it. Yes, didn't exist 30 odd years ago. Yes, it begins with the town itself looks very old, the paragraph. The town itself looks very old, but we don't want that big. We just want the 30 odd years ago. You can also do nothing but rice paddies, a few farmhouses, and a zong. Why do I pick that one? All in the same paragraph, really. Yes, sorry, go on.
Not sure this. Terminology, vocab. Simplicity.
Sure. It's culturally relevant. I've already written it down, so I should have stopped you, but it's fine. It's the relevant terminology of the vocab, right? Look at the scene she's creating: rice paddies, farmhouses, and a fortress. Not many fortresses, the one fortress. Very small, close-knit community. Yeah. What do I mean by close-knit? Where does that word come from? Close-knit. I like that word a lot. Where do I get the word knit? I came up with that word, so it's not going to be in your text. Knit, you know what knit is? You know, the grandmas do it, knitting. Yeah, that's why it's a close knit, because they do it very tight. So you're closely knit. So literally, we have stolen a thing. Yeah. Okay. This structure thing, there's only line numbers because you know that the Edexcel version comes with line numbers. But look at the bottom because Cherry has done a much better job of the paragraphs. So ignore that one. Okay, paragraph 1, abstract, blah, 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 whatever. You know, actually with paragraph 1, I don't even think it's that abstract. That's my other problem. It tells me exactly where it is. You know what I mean?
You mean abstract?
That's the word abstract. Yes, very non-physical. That's why I don't know how I feel about the word abstract. I think the word abstract makes it sound like no one knows where Bhutan is. But we obviously know where it is because it starts with the second sentence. You know what I mean? Anyway.
Should we use this word to describe, like, for the structure of the first paragraph?
I think you should start with that. Just vivid descriptions, maybe imagery. Yeah. Yeah. Actually, that's a good question, Cherry. Do it that way. That sounds better. I kind of like that, yeah. What is brief description to her first sight of Thimphu? There are lots of mountains and weather is dry and cold. What about the between?
For Canada.
No, I mean I know you're talking about like her first night in Bhutan. My question is, what is the impact of that structure? What is the impact of that paragraph?
Let the readers know about.
Yeah, but so is the first paragraph, you know? Like every following paragraph will be to let the readers know about something or the other, right? What is it of like, there are lots of mountains and the weather is cold and dry. What about the between? What is she doing? What about the pace? What about the tone? Tell me about the speed. Are we reading fast? Are we reading slow? Why?
Because
Is it slower than paragraph 1?
yeah, slower.
Okay, why?
Because it's like more relaxed.
Slows down. It's more relaxed. Why is it more relaxed? I will give you that. Why is it more relaxed? What words or what structural elements tell me that this is more relaxed? Simple.
Mountains.
Yes, but what is the structural element there? You've used both of the right things that I'm looking at, simple and mountains, but you're not saying what's common between the both of them. What is after simple?
Nature.
No. Right next to simple, what are you missing? There's a very important little friend there. And next to mountains.
I don't know.
Comma, the humble comma. Simple comma, mountains comma. Flying in from baked brown plains of India this morning, comma. Mountains, comma. Look at the use of commas, yeah? Just past Everest, comma. What is the purpose of a comma?
Pause.
To pause. That's the interesting thing in this creates natural pauses. It's very slow because we stop and we're like, the mountains in India, oh, Everest. That's what she's doing. She's sort of like daydreaming. You know what I mean? But at night. Why is the breakfast disgusting?
Very plain and dull.
Yes. Actually, let's not begin with the breakfast. Let's begin with the two others, the two other girls. What are their names? Oh, Lorna and Sasha. Yeah? What is the deal with Lorna and Sasha?
You mean their description?
No, I mean in terms of structure in paragraph 3.
He talks about appearance. It's a structure.
She talks about say that again?
Their appearance.
Their appearance. Yes, we're getting there. Look at the paragraph in 2 chunks. The other girl called? Okay, those are the 2 chunks of that paragraph. Yeah? So what is that paragraph about?
With people.
Give me more technical terms. So I'll say description of disgusting hotel food. Yeah?
And the appearance of.
Yes, what do you call that?
Description.
Characterization. Why? Have you met Lorna and Sasha? No, we don't know anything about them, right? So the characterization introduces her to new friends or partners or colleagues, whatever you want to call them, right? Excuse me. Vivid description of the architectures of the buildings. Vivid description of the architecture. Let's go with that. Yes. What else is happening in paragraph 4?
Traffic.
The traffic, yes.
Traffic on the road.
Yes, I suppose.
Did I skip one?
What do you mean? I'm looking at the paragraph that begins with official population is 20,000.
The paragraph shouldn't be about the architecture. Also the shops.
Yeah, what do you call that? What's the technical term? Setting. Right? Description of setting. That's what's the most common noise I hear. Paragraph 6. The town itself is very old. What's happening with the old town? Description of the traditions of blah, 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 blah. What's going on? What's, again, the technical term? Come on, 3 more to go. I know.
They're what?
Description of what are they doing?
The traits.
The what?
The traits.
Where did you learn that word, trades? Everyone is saying it today. Where did you get the word trade?
No, traits.
Yeah, trades. I don't care what form or if there's an S.
No. Traits. T-R-A-I-T-S.
Traits. The traits of the market. The traits.
Traits of the people.
History. This is more historical context. Why is it historical context? Paragraph 6. The town itself looks very old, with cracked sidewalks and faded paintwork. But Gordon told us that it didn't exist 30 odd years ago. That's the one, yes. And then it's the people. Yes. What else is happening in paragraph 7? She's describing the people. Oh my God, they're so beautiful. They're very handsome people.
Wait,
Wait.
Same people.
Community.
Hmm.
And the culture of them, because they talk about what they wear.
Yes, give me the technical term. Description of the people and
Tradition.
yes. Traditional outfits. What else? Anything else? Is it just the outfits? Yeah. We're missing something in that paragraph. Right? The second thing you're missing is it links to the expat, the tiny, whatever, small expat community. What are expats? We all know what expats are because we live in Hong Kong, I assume. No? Foreign me, Guailos. Anyone who doesn't look like is not ethnically Chinese in Hong Kong is an expat.
Guaylo.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's the word they like to use. I know, Guaylo is so much better. I agree with you. Anyway, okay. Last paragraph, week-long orient, like she's finally coming round to actually telling me what she's doing there. I just don't understand why she's so slow with this. But anyway, I need to add a row below, don't I? Okay, paragraph 8, structure. What's happening? Somebody.
Is it a long orientation one?
Yes, in Thimphu, we attended a week-long orientation session with 12 other Irish.
History.
I guess. How do you guys say that name of the Indian saint?
Where?
It's in that same paragraph. Yeah, that's the one.
In the P. So is it you skipped some of the small paragraph?
I've just squished them. Yeah. Because it's useless otherwise. It's too long. PADMAS. I have no idea. When I first saw it, I was like, who the hell is that? What is going on? Right, so
Is it also the religion that says
what do you mean?
the religion? So it's like more like culture.
I guess but she's just focused back on herself. That's the thing. She's not actually giving us any new information about the history. She's giving us a little bit information, but she's going back to her task. She's going back to why she's there. Yeah, her training, if you will, for example. Yeah. Why does she do that? To again show what she's learned. She has learned. Okay, and the very last one begins with, while the rest of Asia was being overrun by Europeans of varying hue but similar cry, only a handful of Westerners found their, yeah, because it's in the mountains. Oh, hate ignorant people, but okay, we're moving on with this. What is happening in that last paragraph? His face rubbed with wet dough. What happens when you rub someone's face with wet dough?
Dirty.
Yeah, dirty, but like, why wet dough? Why not just regular, like, flour or mud? I would not waste all that flour. It's just what I'm saying. But anyway, okay. Paragraph 9, she's actually not summarizing, I guess. She's let's do description of their, what's the word I'm looking for? Description of their, I don't want to say overcome, description of, the challenges or difficulties have faced. Why? She talks mostly about how they tried to take over, that kind of thing, right? Your thingy, you know when I say like what's the technical word for it? 9 times out of 10, it will start with the word description. Description of blah, blah, blah. That's how you talk about structure. Yeah. And once you get tired of using the word description, you start looking at the sentences. So then you look at the commas. Is she using lots of commas? Is she using longer sentences? Are her sentences very short? Is she using no commas? Sometimes they do that. But she likes her commas. So, you know, it's cool. It's fine. Okay. This next one is mostly vocab that I'm not interested in. What I am interested in is task 5. Yeah. I don't like this word here. This is the one that I don't like. I've made it bold, temporal markers. I call them time markers. I think that's a better word than temporal. But that's just personal opinion. You may use either or. Okay. I also don't like Bhutanese vocab. So you can say cultural vocabulary. I've left a blank next to listing because there's different types of listing. I want you guys to figure out what types they are. We're not actually going to go through the table because that's a huge waste of my time and yours. We are actually now going to go into Journey into Bhutan as a question, which is another handout. So we have about 45 minutes, which is exactly how long you will have in the exam for each question.
Oh my god.
So,
No. In the exam, we exactly know what we're going to write, and we go start, and then just go.
Yeah.
Don't even process our brain, just go right.
Yeah.
And then not say.
Now, what you have to first of all decide on with this question is summarize. Be able to tell me exactly what her thoughts and feelings are from the start. If in every single paragraph you are not telling me what her thoughts and feelings are, then you're not answering my question. Do you see what I mean? Okay, all right. Let me get you some paper. Okay, let's aim for 2 sides. And
Can we have 5 minutes break now? And we'll be late. We'll go late.
yes. Okay. You may have, okay, take like 10 minutes. You can come back. You can ask me questions the whole time, so you're not writing on your own. God, everyone just freaks out. Yeah, go walk around, stretch, meditate.
Bye bye. Good night. Good night.
I'm not with you. Okay.
Yeah, I have to make it.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
If someone else buys your milk, they need the rest of the milk. That's what I do. Mabel, because she forgot the code.
Okay.
係嘛？
會啊，
梗係會啦，你哋做成點啊？加油啊！後天我嘅肥嘅。你寫咗呢個？寫擺So when do you It's always about her feelings. So the more descriptive you are about her feelings,
Do you understand acting?
me,
Yes.
what do you ask?
I want to know what we're saying.
Isn't that a risk you have to take?
No?
Yeah.
I just want to know.
You take.
I just want to know.
OK
我都想這個。係有嘅。好晒，我覺得好大。但我唔中意食呢個糖。我快啲。
咩形象嘅？
係啲。
乜嘢嚟㗎你哋？我食咗飯先。
咩啊？我係話
Today you have the notes for Jenny. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. 加油啊！Bye. See you later. 嗱，如果你哋吹咧，我就開咗個鎖嘅，你哋即係如果吹要嗰啲人撳呢個就啱啦。OK？ Right, let's go. See, I don't know where I'm going. You guys don't know. You're like, go, 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 go. Just bring like a handful. You know? Okay.
少到啦，好多，做乜嘢啊？好多喎！
你陣間攞翻出嚟。
係啊，我攞翻嚟啦。
There you go. Can I have a mango? Thank you.
呢個先係呢個茶，呢個
Mango.
呢個係啊，
橙嚟嘅。
Okay.
呢個先係
You may ask me all the questions that you want. You can even ask me, what is the analysis of a metaphor? And I will tell you. I will tell you all of the answers. You just have to write it. Right. You're on the clock. Let's go. Please put your name on your piece of paper.
The language. I want to. You ask. I want to ask. Like sometimes I was like because I don't know. Let me 重咗下先，你講先。
Okay. Terry, your turn.
I want to ask the language is including for the descriptive language and lots of them. Is it a travel log?
Mm-hmm.
But 我仲衰啦，我咧為咗佔位啦，跟住我寫埋個 title 嗰個嘢啦，跟住就由邊個寫啦，跟住就講晒啲廢話出嚟。
我就係寫 title 啊，寫我就用跟住之後呢個作者同埋我啦，introduction 係咁。
係，我都係。
That's cool.
Is it explores into?
Explores.
Is it not correct for the explores
No, you can say explores.
into?
No, no,
into.
she explores something, noun. Oh, also, some of you, I noticed, do this. What's wrong with this?
Discuss.
There's no about. If I'm discussing, assume that this word is already inside here. Yeah? So anytime you use the word discuss, whether it's in the essay or speaking, just put what exactly you want to talk about. So discuss my grades. Discuss how I'm so unhappy being here at 7:30.
What's the theme of this whole passage?
It's the theme. I would say the theme is exploring a new culture, or exploring new opportunities, or traveling. The theme is not, the theme can be anything you want it to be in the end. Within reason. I think one of the themes is experiencing a new culture, but seeing something you don't expect.
I want to ask like.
How long your introduction should be?
No, I want to ask like, if sometimes like I do my analysis, do I need to like reserve some quotes for the language, the language techniques? Because sometimes if I use all of them in the first, this is always those things. Do you know what I'm saying?
No, I have no idea what you're saying. I have no idea. The language, the quotes you're using are your language techniques.
Yes, but sometimes, because if I use all of them, then I'm not to write in language techniques part. Because in IGCSE, I think that it always requires a paragraph for language technique.
When you say it requires a paragraph for language techniques, it's the smaller language techniques, like for example, the historical one, the description of history. That's a fact. You can't change history. A language technique is not when you hear the word metaphor or simile. A language technique is vocab, structure, adjective.
So it can be anything.
Anything.
So I will just use something that I haven't wrote and then I just put it
Yes.
in the paragraph.
Yeah. The last paragraph, just shove everything else that you don't want. That's what I do. Yeah. There's a very different, what you guys have to remember is there's a very different expectation from the mark scheme to how these texts are taught. If I bring you that, that pink book you guys use in class, if I bring you that book's job is simply for the teacher to teach you that basic text. That's not the same as what your examiner is thinking. Your examiner is grading you, not your teacher. Yeah? So the mark scheme is about if your language is correct. That makes no sense to you, does it? Okay, finish writing and then we'll talk about this. Did you guys finish this in class? This text? No?
你拉上個碟落嚟啊！不如
咪啦，
定還是你拉佢上去啊嘛？
Are you hot or cold? I can never tell. Oh, too cold.
Sometimes cool, sometimes hot.
Yeah, I know. This aircon is just has its own mind. Okay, so you should be on body paragraph 1.
我哋咁撩啲嘢俾佢，就冇法啦。
Yeah, no worries.
You have 22 minutes. Let's say like 20 because I want to talk for like 2 minutes. Anywhere I can help you with language analysis? Any questions? No? Cool, cool.
What is the advantage of using present tense?
It seems like it's happening now for the reader. Like they're part of it. Okay, last sentence. Okay, and we are finished. Ooh. It's fine. It's not an exam board. Like, and you know, if you keep writing in an exam after they've told you the time is up, they will take the paper from you. I'm just saying. So, what are our body 1, 2, and 3 paragraphs? Who's writing about what? Let's begin with Ariel. What happens in your body 1?
The landscape, town, and people.
Okay. What's your body 2?
Oh, no. Landscape, the first body, and the
People.
people, second body, town, first body.
Okay. And Terry, what is your body 1, 2, and 3?
The landscape, people, and history that she has learned. And
Okay.
also maybe like language.
Well, that has to go in all of that. But
Okay.
yes. Where does structure go? Your question asks you about structure specifically. So where is structure?
And it be written at this paragraphs after the description for landscape. And
I mean, it can be written anywhere, ideally. But how would you divide up your 1, 2, and 3? Actually, is everyone else roughly the same? Like landscape, people, history or something, or town? Or, is that roughly it?
As landscape, people, and then language techniques.
Okay. Susanna, what's yours?
I added the structure part inside the language technique. I didn't have time.
Okay.
I haven't finished. I just only read the landscape and the people only.
Okay, but then everyone's plan is landscape, town, whatever, history, people. Is that it? Yeah? Okay, this is what you need to be doing. Body 1, it's already on the thingy, the journey into Bhutan essay question. I've already written it down. Body 1 is a description of the landscape, town, and its history. Because you just don't have enough about the town and the history to go on for 2 paragraphs. So I would recommend you squish all of that together, because otherwise you're just writing a really boring essay. And I don't think, if you do it as landscape, town, and people, or landscape, history, and people, I don't know that that can be an A-star answer, because you're not talking about structure. So structure needs to be its own paragraph, because they have asked you in the question, structure. Does that make sense? So one of those, that means you have to decide how to divide up what you will write. The way I've divided it is landscape, town, history, paragraph 1, people, paragraph 2, and structure, paragraph 3. Yeah? I also don't like the history. That's why the history is at the end. So I'm just not going to talk about it. You don't have to talk about everything. That's the other thing that you need to remember. If there's something you don't understand or don't like me in history, I will just not talk about it, and I know I can still get a good grade on that. Yeah. Okay. Can I have your papers so I can photocopy them, and then you can take them back, and then you can finish at home. Thank you. Thank you. Is everybody's name on this? No. No. Jenny's name is here. Someone is using a blue pen. Oh my God, Susanna's handwriting is like a font. If I gave you straight paper, like lined paper, that would be amazing.
Can I see?
No, you can't see.
See.
Whose is this? Okay, 3 out of 5. Not bad. Thank you. Thank you. Take more paper if you need to.
我都話 structure 係要寫，
我其實 structure 係寫啲咩？
呢個等佢等佢嚟先。
嚇？我融入咗入邊。
使乜寫埋啲 comma 嗰啲嘢？
我知啦。
會啊，瞓覺。
寫咗。好啦，你啱啱補完性喎，做乜嘢嚟？
我攰啦，我都。
3個半鐘。
我靈魂走咗啦。
我哋個 soul lives on 啊。
喂 ，afterlife 喂。
你哋係咪今日排 RF 啊？
係啊。
你哋好變態啊！6個定5個攞22分。
佢唔知佢咯。
依家張擘大個口都全世界都知道。
6個廿幾
Jenny. Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Okay, right. You are all sorted. Off you go.
我今日好有煩啊！你係咪去咗啊？你咪排喺香港啊？你唔去嗰度分緊啊？冇所謂，我今日有咩做？
係唔係咁嘅咩？
因為香港大近啲咯，即係因為同埋有得坐去做下嘢。而家等車好耐咯，係，即係5個鐘你睇你都。
She has some catching up to do. I mean, if you want, if you're happy with the necklace, then it's up to you.
Yeah. Can you just like tell me about some of the ones that I don't really get?
What do you not get about the necklace? Like,
because I don't know which quote you think is just too long.
yeah, most of the quotes are too long, which means you can just cut them. I was telling the girls the other day, you can do it as like, if you're choosing a quote, you have blah, 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 and then just do this dot means you've cut the quote. So use the first part of the quote, skip all the other things you don't need, and then if it's only the last word you need, then you have a break. That's really the only thing you need to remember. We get those in bags, so take as many as you want. Yeah, but the rest of you go. I want to go home. So does she. So let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
队长，然后听完你的 office 我们已经拜拜，加油，加油，你做我翻屋企先。我把抽呢個
Yeah, like, do you want your laptop? Actually, here, you can write it here. I printed it for
啲
you.
精神我記得我哋快啲講
Some more paper if you want.
拜拜。
Bye, see you
Bye.
Saturday.
拜。
Finish your essay. What's your last name?
Me.
Like,
Mrs. Lee, did you have any questions?
Yes, because, yeah, because because
I know, I'm so sorry about that recording. I tried to fix it and I have no idea what was going on.
so, I just want to, maybe you help her just, something, because she will not miss anything.
Yeah, I understand. I think
Because
we will
mistake, otherwise, we can't, I will get the test to come here.
I know, I
I
understand.
think,
Yeah, that's no problem. Definitely, I'll give her the extra time and help. That's fine.
please.
No, actually, I spoken to Mian because I realized the sound wasn't working. So I just thought I said to Mian, I will give her more of the notes. And then, when I was speaking to Mian, I asked her, my plan was that Saturday after class, I would talk to her about what she's missed. But we can do it today, no problem. What we will also be doing is we'll actually go through the text again. She won't feel like she's missing out. Because I think that, story is quite difficult for most of them.
Yes, it's a business.
Yeah,
And I don't really,
So we will definitely go through it, at least 2 more times.
one more additional class, because, is that you think before the exam cannot go through or more classes? Because I want more detail, because for us, it's sometimes I feel hesitation. Suddenly pump.
Yeah.
So can you just organize thinking, okay, we understand, we think about more for the just suddenly pump.
Yes.
So how come I don't understand why suddenly we already paid?
Yeah.
So
They told me that there is, once we find out from the school what the exam dates are, then based on the exam dates, for my workshops, I normally will organize only exam revision. So they will, that's why I suggested they do the exam practice in the class. So like, for example, some of the classes I'll give them, like 45 minutes. And then, I'll say, okay, we have 45 minutes because that's the time we get in the exam, you get it. And it's mostly to get that practice because otherwise they.
So you use the 45 minutes to do the exam?
To do the exam.
Oh, but
Because otherwise actually today, they gave the 45 minutes, but they don't finish in time.
Oh, but why don't you at home you can't, and then come here you listen to you.
Oh, at home, yeah, at home,
Because
it's very,
I think they can just ask them, can't 45 minutes and finish. But I know it's difficult, but the point is like, we want you here, we want to listen for your explanation.
yes,
So
definitely.
we use 2 hours and 45 minutes is they doing, I think is when the parents know, maybe they say,
The reason I get them to do it in the classroom instead of at home is actually because when I tell them to do it at home, many times I've given them the essays to do at home, and they will do it. Today, when we did it, I don't think anyone finished the essay in 45 minutes. So when I say to them, okay, 45 minutes is over, you have to stop writing, they have to stop writing. In the exam hall, if they are seen to still be writing after the time, it will take them. It's very easy for the students when they're comfortable to write, 2 or 3 pages in 45 minutes. In my experience, no student when they first started writing, I would maybe spend only 10 minutes saying, okay, you have now 10 minutes to write this much. Even
that was impossible. But now they've come to a point where instead of only being able to write 100 words, they can write 500 words. So I can, measure the improvement in how many words they're able to write under pressure, which is the main reason that sometimes I will make them do the exam skills. The main focus of the lesson is for them to understand where the language analysis comes from. The most difficult text so far has been the necklace. So the necklace also is longer, so we will definitely go through that again. And then today I will go through with Jenny some of the other things that she's
I think the necklace is just only one we can test it. Yes, so don't put too much.
No, definitely.
Because I probably sometimes feel no,
Yeah.
not always to pick this one.
Yes, they
will
not.
popular.
Yes,
so you much more time.
Yes,
That's not no.
But the school, the school exams will count for so when they apply that for their English, what they're studying in class, I ask them to tell me, and then that's what we go through. With the necklace, I don't think their teacher we went through it in class.
Yes,
but they said to me that he can write some sheet study at home. So that's why I spent a little bit more time on the necklace. I think it will also be the next test. Yeah. So that's the main reason for the practice, and it's a good. If the text is very difficult, it's better for practice because they have to really think about what they're doing. In terms of the essays that they have completed so far, I think Jenny is quite safe with most of them.
Last time she talked us.
Yeah. So she has a very good understanding of what's going on, but her main struggle is that she doubts her own knowledge.
Yes.
So she will write something that's correct, but then she'll consider or she'll say something else, So that's the main thing. So that's why slowly we'll be working through it. I also think with Jenny, it's important to push her to write more.
Yeah.
I can see already, when we first did the workshops, if I remember correctly, Jenny was averaging about 150 words, maybe 20 minutes. Right now, I would say she's 550, 600 words, which is a significant improvement. But I actually think she could reach maybe 800 words for the whole 45-minute question. So that's what the goal is, because it also depends on how quickly the student understands how much they can write for themselves. And I think she can definitely write to that level. So I'll definitely work out everything that she has missed and then help her with that. If there is something that you want me to specifically help her with, then just let me know and she'll.
Okay, because she's actually I want to more focus on some essays on skill writing.
Okay,
right?
yeah.
This is more important for her to improve. And also just because she missed 2 classes. I know.
Yeah.
Because one day is a stick. And I forgot last week. Because
She had a competition.
the one child. So you have to represent in school.
Yeah.
So for me, she said cannot because you really want to join the class. So I just want to listen, but
Yeah,
even I want because when you come here, we want to get more knowledge,
of course.
except money first, you understand?
Yes.
So we want to have at least we can have positive to fair and to get the student.
Of course. I completely understand that. I think that's fine. If she feels like.
Can you just okay? I don't listen. Okay, but I just want can take care of her.
Yes,
And so listen, talk to her, and then I don't want to listen too much for her, but to. Thank you.
All right, Miss Worried Jenny. Okay, let's start with, tell me where you left off first. So you asked about themes, if I remember correctly, yes?
I think that is it the most probably they will ask about themes.
With the text this long, yes. That's the easiest way to answer this question.
I think
Yeah.
it's the theme.
Now, this is how you work out the theme. start with, what did you learn from this?
Vanity and pride.
That's it. Yeah. So why is it why is vanity a bad thing, for example?
Because it caused the downfall of
Yeah,
someone.
it eventually causes the downfall of what's her Mathilde, right? And it was a little bit more than vanity as well, right? Because she was a little bit greedy, right? Because she didn't just want the dress, she also wanted the necklace, you know. So she was never happy, right? And why was she not happy is because she had one thing and then she was like, oh, I want more, oh, I want more, I want more, right? So yes, the theme is definitely vanity. You can say pride. You can say somebody who is who values material objects. I think you've seen that one in the comments as well, right? So the point of all of that is to teach a lesson, right? And the lesson we learn is don't be greedy, right? So in order to show that lesson, like I think if I remember correctly, the girls were telling me that your class did like half of the passage and then another half or something like that.
Because I think that the lesson that the teacher gave, I didn't went to class.
Oh, that's why. Okay. Right. If you look through the passage, I've given you all of the printouts, right? Yeah. Okay. Look. Let's start at just the page 1. Yeah. In page 1 itself, there's no problem, so to speak. There's no plot problem, right? In page 1, the only problem is this girl's characterization, right? The description of the character is not something that I am attracted to, right? In fact, I don't think any reader will be attracted to this character because she seems like she just complains a lot, you know? Like she was unhappy, blah, blah, like, yes. You want all these rich things, blah, 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 right? And then look over to, like, we'll skip quickly to page 2. Very little happens in page 2. Yeah, because in page 2, we are mostly sad for her husband. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're just like, oh my God, what is your problem, lady? Right? He's devastated. Look at 61. He's devastated, right? What a strong. So that's the example of emotive language, you can say, right? She controlled her sorrows, made a supreme effort, right? All of her descriptions are about how she can be more emotional, right? How she can manipulate him. And that's not nice, right? That's not a very nice thing to do. So already we are starting to dislike the character, and that's completely okay for you to say. Yeah. So you will never always have a character that's going to be like perfect, right? And she's the example of the imperfect character. Now look at after she has tried, you know, made the supreme effort, blah, 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 right? Line, I guess 68. I can't say precisely, but I dare say I could get by on 400 francs. Right? And then he turned slightly pale. So the interesting thing there, I guess the two interesting words are the precisely and the slightly pale. Right? And that's because it describes her thought pattern, the first one, precisely. Right? Because she's like, oh, I don't know. You know, she's doing the thing all kids do with their parents. Right? So you will go, oh, Mom, can I do something this weekend with my friend? And your mom goes, okay, what do you want to do? And you're like, well, right? That's what she's doing, yeah? And then he turns pale because he's like, obviously, I can't refuse her. And he had other plans with the money, but we don't really care about that, do we? Right? So then he just submits. He's like, oh, okay, just go and get the dress. Fine. Right? He just gives in. And look at how easy it is for her to manipulate him. It only takes her half a page. Half a page, and she's got 400 francs. That's the most amazing, like, talking to I have ever seen. I couldn't even talk to my mom that quickly, you know? If I said, like, when I was a teenager and I told my mom, like, oh, Mom, I want to do this, she'd be like, what? Why? Who are you going with? Where are you going? How much money do you need? This girl. Great, right? Now, day of the reception, let's begin there. The reason I say let's begin, that's the next section, is because do you see how this whole story is separated within the time frame? So it first starts with like when she was like not born, but her history, her background. Then it goes into the present day. She thought for a few moments, blah, 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 right? So it describes one specific scene where she's asking for money. And then it skips forward a little bit to the reception, right? So there is a very clear, I was saying earlier, the time references or the temporal thing, yeah? Very clear time references. You can even look at the next page and it starts with the next day, right? If you took all of those time references, you will very quickly have a timeline of this story. And that's the whole idea, because it's almost like a Disney princess fairy tale story, like once upon a time, and then this happened, right? So that's the idea of the short story. Okay, excuse me. Let's go to, when she's borrowing that, all of a sudden in a black satin wood case, she found a magnificent diamond necklace, and her heart began to beat with immoderate desire. Yeah, her hands shook as she picked it up. She fastened it around her throat over her high neck dress, and she sat looking at herself in rapture. She's looking at herself as if she's reborn. That's the meaning there of the word rapture, yeah? And then diffidently, apprehensively, as in she's uncomfortable. She's not sure if she can borrow something so extravagant, something so expensive looking. But does she know yet that it's not real? No, right? So she's looking at these fake diamonds and she's like, whoa, that's amazing, right? And look at the fact that she thinks that necklace is so amazing that she does not want anything else. Nothing else, just this. Those two very simple sentences, right? She literally wants nothing else. She's just like, no, I'm good. This is fine. I'm happy with this, which is crazy, right? She threw her arms around her friend and kissed her extravagantly. That's weird. That word is weird, right? Because it's okay to kiss her friend, but to kiss her friend extravagantly, that's weird. Like, that's a little too many kisses, you know? So we already know how excited she is just by that one word. Now, what would you call that word? Like, how would you classify it?
Emotive language.
Yeah, I'll give you emotive language, but what part of speech?
Adverb.
Yes, why?
Describing her action.
About what?
Kissing.
Yes, so what does that tell you about the characterization of Mathilde?
How she is excited by all the material things.
How she's excited to almost a childish point, right? Because if I did that to a 5-year-old, right? If a 5-year-old was like, please, can I have the chocolate? Can I have it? And I went, yeah, go ahead. They'd be pretty excited. So it's the childishness, right? Okay, and look at how quickly the time changes. Yeah? Very quick, very quick. It never stays for too long, right? The day of the reception until the day of the reception arrived. So it's coming nearer and then it's suddenly here. Yeah? Changes quite quickly. Why does it change so quickly?
So that the whole story is like keeping the readers engaged in suspense.
Exactly, because I don't really care what she's doing once she ran home, right? And then she ran home taking her treasure with her. Cool, sweet. I don't want to hear about her, like, stroking the diamond necklace or something when she's home. No one's really interested in that. We want to know what she looks like, right? So now this is the big day. This is the big day also for the audience or the readers, because we're like, ooh, cool, right? And that's why this paragraph starts with 2 very small sentences. The day of the reception arrived, and Madame Loisel was a success. Isn't that a weird word to use, success, to describe someone? Right? Like, she didn't look beautiful, pretty and blah, blah, blah comes later, but she was a success, as if she's some kind of a task, right? So for her whole thing, like, apply that to her characterization, that she wanted people to be like, oh, okay, you're successful, oh, you're rich now, right? So it's almost like a play on word, where she's trying to fake that she is, that she's very, what's the word? Wealthy. But is she actually wealthy? No. Yeah? And then of course you have the adjectives, you know, prettiest, elegant, blah, 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 all of that, right? Actually, with the prettiest, it's obviously the superlative there, but anyway, right? Elegant, graceful, radiant, wonderfully happy, right? So she's perfect. This is her jam. This is exactly where she needs to be, yeah? All the men looked at her, inquired who she was. Why would she be flattered by the asking who she is?
She wants to be famous. She wants to be the center of attention.
Exactly. She wants to be the center of attention. And all of a sudden she's like, oh, people want to know my name. That's so weird, right? So that's why this is interesting, that most people, maybe not most people, but most people would not be okay with that much attention. It's strange. It's a very strange feeling for sure, right? But this is what, finally, the thing she wants is happening, right? So her dream is basically coming true, right? And that first little paragraph, you know, the day of the reception arrived, that is so quick and easy. There is no faffing about, right? Everything is like fact, 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 right? Excuse me. Right, she danced ecstatically, wildly. And there you've got, this paragraph is where everything starts to speed up. Look at how quickly, and actually, this paragraph is one sentence. Right? Because she can't get enough. How can you possibly describe a character that can't dance enough, except just doing one long sentence? Very strange indeed. I really like how you can, I mean, if you really want to break down the structure of that paragraph, because, you know, this is reaching the climax of the story. So if you really want to break down the paragraph, you can even look at the connectives, you can look at the commas, on every time it says and, put that in there, the repetition of and, right? And then look, she left at about 4 in the morning. Everything with her is not everything, but in that paragraph, the 4 in the morning is just so perfect. Like, she probably didn't even realize it was 4 in the morning, you know? And then we have a bit of humor, which is her husband had been dozing. Why is that funny?
Because it contrasts with her.
Yes, she's partying all night and he's just like, with the other men. It's always the other men, right? So it doesn't matter where you go. Like, think about a shopping mall, right? All the women are inside doing their shopping. Then you've got the men on their phones, just waiting, right? And that's what he's doing. But he's doing the thing that he knows will make her happy. So again, we like this husband more and more because we're like, oh my God, he waited till 4 in the morning. I would have just been like, I'm leaving now, bye, take care of yourself, right? So that's the nice thing about him, is that he waited. Okay. He helped her on with her coat. That's the other nice thing, right? Like, look at him doing all these nice things for her, right? But then she has a problem with the coat. What's the problem with the coat?
Well, it's like it doesn't match.
Yeah, it doesn't match, and it's not expensive enough. Like, it's just ridiculous, right? You cannot please her. Right. Now, from there till a little bit further, maybe actually even until the next page, not a whole lot happens. If you look at the words, right, she just ran away quickly in desperation, aged nocturnal hackney cabs, right? I'm not sure how much you know about those cabs. There are many different types of taxis in Europe. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, in Hong Kong, all of the cabs are owned by the taxi company. In, for example, Paris, you can have like people who own the taxi themselves. And some of them are really gross, like they've never been cleaned. It's so gross, right? And so that's the kind of taxi they're talking about. That's why it says ashamed to parade their poverty, because the taxi driver is poor, right? So because he's poor, he can't afford to keep his taxi clean. And so he will not drive his taxi during the day because no one will get into the taxi, right? He will only drive it at night when people, like when the French people are all drunk. They don't care where they're going. right? So they get one of these sad little taxis instead of their own car, you know, right? The one interesting thing I would say, truly interesting thing about this paragraph is the route de martyrs. You see where it says that? What is a martyr? A martyr is someone who sort of like sacrifices themselves for the greater good, if you will. Like, it will make more sense later with the ending, so I'll come back to that one. Yeah. But remember that one because that one's important. And they walk sadly up to their. Oh, here we go with the sadly again, right? Okay, let's go to the next page because then we're looking at structure. This is where the structure becomes interesting. She turned to him in a panic. You see that? No? Oh, next page.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, so she turned to him in a panic.
The climax.
That is the climax, exactly. In fact, the climax is, I haven't got it. That's the exact point, because that's when she's like, oh my God, what's going on? Right? And he's like half naked. So he's just like, oh my God, what? No, it's not happening. Right? Those little dots, you see the 3 dots? That's called ellipsis, yeah? The ellipsis is to show a very long pause. Or sometimes it's to show when people are stuttering. People usually stutter when they're like scared
What
or
is the
nervous.
effect of ellipsis?
Pause, long pause. So it's to, in this case, it's to obviously show that they're shocked. I just spilled tea everywhere. Okay. Look at, he straightened up as if thunderstruck. Why thunderstruck? You're most interested in a panic and thunderstruck. What is the relationship between those two?
Is it thunderstruck? Is like more, even more?
Yes, that's right.
Because that cover is really.
That's
thick.
right. Because now he's like, I have to pay for this, right? She doesn't have to obviously do anything, does she? Right? So, oh my God, I need to pay for this. So that's the problem there, yeah? One is bigger than the other, I guess, yeah? And then there's this bit in the middle that's great, right? When they are talking, look at, are you sure you still had it when you left the ballroom? He asked, right? Yes, I remember fingering it in the entrance hall, but no, she said. And then the next one, no, he asked or he said, nothing. But we know exactly who is speaking, right? Why get rid of the extra, like he said, she said?
Like they're like talking like really intense.
Yes, very quickly, one after another, very quickly, yeah? Now that's called direct speech. Because that speech, it's not dialogue. Yeah, that's the difference between dialogue and direct speech. Direct speech will not have a description of how he said it or what he said, yeah? So I would like line 140 until the last no, yeah? They looked at each other in dismay. Dismay is just another emotive word if you want to use it. Look at he went out. Simple, very, very simple sentence, yeah? So every time there's some kind of a tragedy or some kind of a negative surge in negative emotion, the sentences suddenly become short, right? He went out because he's just like, I have to find it. Imagine how desperate he is to find that thing, right? And it's the same if you look at he had found nothing. He went out and he had found nothing. It's a nice pair, those two. And what does she do? What's her help? Sitting on the still in the dress, of course, still in the dress, right? Because how could she get rid of the dress? Crazy. Right. He returned 7 o'clock, found nothing, blah, blah, blah. Okay, this goes on for a while. And that's the reason there's nothing happening between like 140, whatever it is, to, I would say, 160. There's not much. And the reason there's not much there to talk about is actually because the writer wants us to feel desperate. The readers, because there's such a lack of description, there's a lack of action. Yeah. So sometimes there won't be a feature. There won't be a device. And in that case, you can simply say the lack of descriptive language, you can even just call it the description of the husband's like search or whatever, is not interesting, right? Because he returned at 7 and he had found nothing. That tells me nothing. That's not interesting at all, right? And then he went to the police station, called the newspaper, toured the cat. Like, okay, we get it. Like, did you find it? That's what we want to know. Did you find it? And we're not told, right? What is the impact? Why does he want the readers to feel like this?
Create suspense.
Yes, create suspense. And then when is that suspense broken?
A week later, they had lost all
That's
hope.
right. A week later, they had lost all hope. Another reference to time, right? So jumps again, right? And then look at the hyperbole, aged 5 years. Like, it's a week, right? But I believe that. If it's about the husband, it's definitely about the husband, right? I completely believe that. The poor dude, right? I mean, yeah, of course he's aged 5 years, right? And then look at the next time jump, the next day, right? After this, it's very quick all of a sudden, right? Why suddenly speed things up?
Because the readers already know that they lost the necklace, so nothing to say about it.
No, there's nothing interesting again happening, right? We already know they've lost it. Now we are interested in how they're going to pay for it, right? And then when it says it cost for 40,000 francs, we're just like, what? Are you serious? Like he couldn't even give her 400. He barely managed to give her 400, but 40,000 francs? Whoo! Like that sentence does not need, and like, you know, if you read that whole paragraph, nothing else is happening. There's so much boring detail in that paragraph. In a shop in the Palais Royal, they found a diamond collar, which they thought was identical to the one they were looking for. Cool, right? There is no point in this story where I thought that they would buy her a new necklace. Of course, they're looking for the identical one. Like, the author is just telling me the obvious now, right? And it's all to create that tension, like, how much is it? What is the damage? What's happening, right? And then bam, simple sentence, 40,000 francs. Yeah. But there's a condition attached to this 40,000 francs. They won't sell it for 3 days. Another, that's not really a jump. They asked him not to sell it for 3 days because the time doesn't change. They're still in that day, right? But the 3 days gives the readers hope. Do you see what I mean? When we see the 3 days, we're like, ooh, maybe they'll find it. But no, they won't. We know that later, right? So it's the false hope, right? The 3 days plus that last end of February or whatever. Those are the 2 points where we have some hope, but it's a false hope. Yeah. Loisel had 18,000 francs. Okay, so now we're doing some math. Now we're like, all right, he's got 18 from his dead father. How sad is that, right? Like, you're just like, oh, dude, why did you marry her, right? And he would have to borrow the rest. That's over half. Like, what a nice little number. He had 18,000, not 20. Let's not make his life easier. Let's make his life a little bit difficult, right? So he had to borrow the rest. He borrowed the money in the next page. That whole paragraph is about how he borrowed money. Isn't that insane? He mortgaged his life. If he is not able to pay all of this back, they will be homeless. Like, they will be on the street. right? So it's a very serious, I know we're laughing, it's so bad, right? It's so bad. But look at how she is not even involved here. This last 2 paragraphs, I would say, has been about him and how he is suffering because of her. And that's why we're like, okay, there is something very wrong with your wife. Like, why would you pick her? Don't pick the princess, you know? Okay, finally, she gives it to her friend. Obviously, her friend is not happy about this, right? You really ought to have brought it back sooner. Like, yeah, we know, everyone, of course, right? She didn't open the case, thank God. And then look at those questions. What would she have thought? What would she have said? Would she have concluded that she was... The narrator is narrating Mathilde's inner thoughts. So what type of narrator is this? That's right, because he knows everything. The narrator knows everything. Yeah? That makes sense? There is another point with the questions, but I think it's towards the end again. But you know, what I've realized is that this narrator only ever describes or says the feelings or the thoughts of Mathilde. Like, what would she have thought? What would she have said? Those are the inner questions that Mathilde is asking herself, you know? But he doesn't do that with anyone else. So that's interesting. Maybe it's because she's the main character. Anyway, right, then began another jump. Yeah? But this time we don't quite know how long the jump was. It's just then began, because it's so horrible, right? Grindingly horrible. What does that word grinding mean? 190? No. Have you ever had the issue where you grind your teeth, like, right? That's grinding. So you can grind anything. Like, this is grinding. If I do this long enough, my hands will hurt, right? And grinding is that feeling where it's almost like you're scratching off surfaces of your skin. It's horrible, right? And it's a good way to describe the life of the very poor, because they have to do the same thing every single day just to survive, which is what they had to do now, right? Which means they had to, like, if you skip what I mean by what they have to do every single day, the horrible life they have to live every single day, you can tell in line 201. Each month they had to settle some accounts, right? And then the one below, her husband worked in the evenings. So all of this, and then sat up in the, basically they have to work all hours. But there's no time for sleep. There's no time for relaxation. There's no time for joy or fun, because they can't afford it. They have to pay all of this back, right? The only change I would say is that she was determined to pay. There's a very small but very noticeable change in the character. Yeah, and that's why that whole bit, I would say 190 to 200, is mostly about making us feel a little bit bad for Mathilde. Like, we sympathize with her. We don't hate her too much at that point. And it's because she's suffering, right? So the pace is actually quite slow. When she was dancing, the pace was very, very fast. Now, it's very slow because it's the drudgery. Every single day she has to suffer, right? Let me see. Oh, yes. Now, from 200 to 209, mainly structure. That's what you're looking at, because it's single line paragraphs, right? the only description we have of the sad life that they lead, excuse me, it starts with the then began, those two big first paragraphs, right? At 190. Those two big paragraphs describe but summarize the suffering for the next 10 years, right? So that's why we don't need to know what happens. They lived like this for 10 years. We don't need to know what happens because it has already been summarized. Yeah. So that structural element again is to show the big jump in time. Yeah. So time is really the most important thing with any short story. You have to show that your plot is moving, right? So many short stories will have things like each month, one Sunday, later that day. They will always have things like this. Yeah. Okay, structural element is fine. They had repaid everything with not a penny outstanding, right? By the time 10 years had gone by, that whole paragraph is again one line. And look at that, the pace is again picking up. Yeah. She looked old now. She had turned into the battling, hard, uncouth housewife. Now, that sounds bad until you look at those words. Battling, hard, and uncouth. Uncouth is someone who's like homeless looking, I guess, like not, not very well presented. But there's nothing, it's not a negative term. That's what I'm trying to say. Like you can look, your appearance can be uncouth, but you might actually be someone who's like Kanye West. You know when famous artists dress like homeless people for fun, that's uncouth. When you know they have money, you're just like, what are you doing, right? So that's the point of that. Who rules working class home? Look at the change in tense. Looked old now. Who rules working class homes? Yeah, very quick. Her hair was untidy, right? So we're back to her appearance. Why are we back to her appearance?
To contrast with her.
Correct, to create the contrast, yeah? And then see, again, the questions in her head, she's talking to herself. Or the narrator is describing what she's saying to herself, right? What might not have happened had she not lost the necklace? Who could tell? Who could possibly tell? Very dramatic, right? And why the dramatic? Because that something drama is about to happen. Yeah. And then it's, again, look, time break as expected, one Sunday. Yeah. So this is where, again, it picks up, right? The pace has been going up since, what line was it? Let me just go back. Looked old now, yeah? It's been picking up slowly but surely. It's getting there, right? Actually, I'm trying to decide, hold on. Should I say 200? No. I think it should actually start with by the time 10 years had gone by because we've switched. Yeah, that's definitely faster. Yes, begins to pick up fast, right? We're continuing, but it's actually a little bit, if you think about it, a little bit faster because it's one Sunday needing a break from her heavy working week. She went out for a stroll, right? So it's very dun, 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 right? And I can tell, the reason I'm trying to explain to you the pace is because you can tell the pace from the commas. The more commas, the more pauses. But sometimes a pause is not necessarily slow, right? Still young, still beautiful, and still attractive. See, there's not necessarily a pause there because that word still is always there. Yeah. So if there is lots of space between the commas, lots of words between a comma, two commas, whatever, right? Generally slower. If there's very few words between commas, faster. Yeah. Felt apprehensive, nervous. Again, he's reading her mind. Should she speak? Yes, why not? Right? She would tell her everything. Why not? Like, look at how fearless she is, right? She's this hard, whatever uncouth housewife, and she's like, I am doing this. Like I am getting rid of this burden on me, right? So narrating her thoughts out loud. Hello, Jian. And obviously her friend doesn't recognize her. Yeah. So familiarly by a common woman, a peasant, right? She stammered. Why is she? Look at how perfectly they show the stammer.
The ellipsis.
Ellipsis, yeah. Right? And then again, look at the direct speech. How interesting that direct speech has no descriptions, but we know who's speaking, right? And it goes down for a while, that direct speech. I lost it, but you returned it to me, right? Very, very fast. Again, the pace has picked up. Every time that pace picks up, it means there is something to be suspenseful about. Yeah? Does that make a little bit more sense? Yeah? So that the whole problem with her, with the character, right, is the fact that she's too materialistic. She's too worried about material objects, right? She just wants more and more. Even though she's poor, she goes down to the Champs-Élysées and she's like, I wonder what the rich people are buying. Like, dude, stay home, right? And then finally you have that big dramatic ending, right? Look at Madame Forestier is the best here. You mean you bought a diamond necklace to replace mine? Right? She stopped. Not just she was shocked, just simply she stopped, as if she just stopped moving. Or like, what do you mean she stopped? She stopped speaking, she stopped moving, she stopped looking, she stopped listening. We don't know, right? It's just her whole existence. She was like, oh my God, what idiot thing did you do now, right? Yes, and you never notice. Look at how you're so proud. Like, oh yeah, I did a good thing. And she's like, oh my God, you idiot. Like, you know, my poor Mathilde. It was only an imitation necklace. As soon as she says that, that is where your irony is. It was only an imitation necklace. You don't even need to know the price. He could have stopped writing right there, and we would all be like, ooh, burn. That's what she's doing. Yeah. It couldn't have been worth much more than 500 francs. If only it was 4, it'd be so perfect and round. But anyway, right? So that's the point where the irony begins and ends. Yeah, at the very end of the story, and we obviously don't know how she reacts, but we can imagine what she reacts like, which is just like, are you for real right now? Like 10 years of my life. But there's a lesson learned, right? Don't be greedy, because the world will come back at you. Like, don't be that person. Yeah. Okay. Is there anything else you don't understand here?
I want to ask, like, because like for Game of Poll, like you will know, like for ask a question, you know, like really like you write for structure and then you know what to write. But
yeah,
for this, what should we? How do we like,
immediately begin with structure? The structure of this, because it's, I say structure because it's so long. You can write about the structure for like 6 paragraphs and you'll still be writing, you know? So what I would recommend is definitely write about structure. What they will most likely ask you is something to do with the reader's response, our reaction, because it's ironic. And there's a very clear moral of the story situation here, right? So they will almost most certainly ask you about that big moment, right? So when you begin with structure, the thing you have to show is how the plot jumps in time. So time is the most important element of this story, right? And you can tell that time is the most important because let's start with page 1, line 39. One evening, right? And do you see one evening isn't indented like the other ones, right? One evening, but then the look starts like one tab away, so not in the same line, right? Every time the time changes, that's the same style. That's how I know the time is important. So one evening starts like that, and then go to the next one. The day of the reception drew near, and there's no space, right? And then the next day, there's a space, which means we're still talking about the day of the reception drew near. So the story is actually in chunks. And then the day of the reception arrived, and you see there's no space before the day, right? So if the time is inside that area, then there's a space. If it's a brand new time, then no space. That's how I know that the time bit is important here, yeah? Okay, so that's how you talk about structure.
So how can you like talk like so many structures in just one paragraph?
You would not do each and every paragraph. You would only apply it to whatever the question is. We can have a look at the question that I've given to the girls. How does the writer try to interest the readers in the necklace? So stupid. So they will give you your 3 points. Usually your 3 points, yeah? What life is like before the reception. That's easy, right? So stick that time period. You only look at what's happening before the reception. They were poor, she's unhappy because she wants a lot of things, but he seems okay. He's not too bad, right? And he gives her the money, right? So that's the main thing you talk about. You talk about the fact that he gives up the money. He's like, okay, just take this, it's cool, it's fine, yeah? The night of the reception is a very short one, right? Because she's just dancing, right? So you talk about the up until they get home, basically. Once they are home, then you go into the climax. So if you look at how the question is structured, the question is already asking you to write about structure before, during, and after, right? So they've already given you what they want you to focus on. Yeah? So what happens after the loss of the necklace? You go, well, they borrow a lot of money, they do blah, 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 blah. And then this last one, any other interesting use of language, just do the irony at the end. Yeah?
Also, we have to stick to what they give us.
Yes.
Also, like we can't prepare like
No.
the other one.
No. Mm-hmm.
Because like for 4 stories, like always like
Always the same, yeah.
You just go like
Yes.
these 3 paragraphs.
The only problem with this one is that it's just longer. That's why. So for this one, it will always be before, during, after. So before the reception even happened, I mean, right?
How about if they ask you like how is the theme of vanity and pride portrayed? Is it still like this?
Still exactly the same. Before, during, after. Because the theme changes, the theme evolves, right? Before, the theme is, oh, she wants to be rich, she wants to be blah, 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 all of that, right? The second thing, the during, right? So the night of the reception, her pridefulness or her vanity has won, right? Because she's dancing, she looks expensive, she's doing her thing, and we're like, oh, well, I'm happy for you, but dude, like chill, you know? And then after, and we're like, I knew it, I knew something would happen, right? That's what they want you to track. They want you to track how one idea, so vanity, for example, how that one thing changes. So you want what you can't have, you have it, you lose it like an idiot, right? And then you were sad about it for the rest of your life until you realize that that first thing wasn't even real, right?
So how about is it except for vanity and pride? Is it something like social? Something that I forgot. Like so, I don't know how to. Is it like something like that? I'm sorry.
Hierarchy.
Yeah.
Social hierarchy. Hierarchy means levels. It's the same word as level.
Is it also the theme of the story?
Well, loosely.
Because I see it here.
I know, but it's not. It's a theme, but you wouldn't really write about it.
Like they won't ask about it.
No, it's if they ask you about it, they're missing the point. That's what I'm trying to say. If they ask you about it, then you can't answer all of these.
Oh, so how can they write about that?
The hierarchy is you recognizing this short story is not yet complete. This story that you have read. I don't know where it went now. Anyway, the story that you're reading there, that's not finished. They have cut off early. If you read the full story, by whatever Guy de Maupassant, whatever his name is, right? If you read the full story, then yes, one of those themes would be social hierarchy. but you're not reading the full story.
Also, what's the ending?
In the ending, she's very sad and she's like, oh my God, I can't believe this happens, you know, blah, blah, blah. And then her friend actually gives her some like trouble because she's like, you thought like people just buy expensive things? Like, what are you talking about? The social hierarchy is to do with the fact that if you don't fit in, then there is something wrong with you. This concept of the social hierarchy is in every single text. It's in the one with the Bhutan that we just did. The social hierarchy is, you remember we were talking about the people, somebody mentioned it today, that they were poor or something.
Oh, I mentioned it. Like,
Yes. Yes, exactly that. Like, I get it. I get why you would say that, but that's not the question. That will never be the question. So that's what social hierarchy is, that sometimes you're just stuck in that place. Like Mathilde and her husband. They were stuck in middle class, right? But that's still better than thousands of other people. And that's what Mathilde did not realize. She was like, oh, I'm of a lower class. I can't afford diamond necklaces, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but there are people who can't afford bread, right? So she didn't understand the social hierarchy herself. So when she was in a safe class, in a safe level, she was like, oh, I want more, I want more. But she didn't go from here to here. She went from like here to here, right? And she wants to be like up there on the 10th floor. And it's just like, dude, no, be happy with the 3rd, right? So that's actually, the building is a good way of explaining social hierarchy. Social hierarchy, you have ground floor, which is all the poor people. Yeah, they have no homes. On the ground floor, there's some elevators on our ground floor, right? There's no rooms. So if you were that level of poor, you would be sleeping in a public area. Right? That next floor up, you have some people taking offices, blah, 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 right? But they don't really have much of a view. From the floor, too noisy. Second floor, like, nice, it's okay, I'm quite comfortable. Sleep all the way up to 15th floor. You have beautiful views, maybe you have a garden, a balcony. That's what social class is. Yeah?
How about like, they won't ask, like, they'll just ask you about the
Structure.
planning and pride.
Yes. It will always be before, during, after.
I actually don't think that they would ask.
It's unlikely for them to ask a question on the necklace anyway, because I don't think you guys have the practice enough to write a full essay on this text in 45 minutes.
But then they ask a longer already. But then they will only test on 2 essays. Like
Yes, that's right.
just a number or like,
Yeah.
I think this time it's necklace.
Oh, okay, maybe.
But then it's always a paper.
Yeah,
They need
yeah.
to like print.
They need to print, yeah. Yeah.
I feel like people say that like they won't be an IGCSE.
Yeah.
Because